It's just gone 2 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Market View. And today, we welcome you to a business segment that is going to certainly bring the business world to your doorstep and uncover the trends shaping tomorrow's markets. I'm your host, Sifiso Ngumala, and today we're going to delve into exciting developments for our local small and medium enterprises. 4 of our own are preparing to showcase their innovations at Paris Design Week next week. How exciting is that? Thanks to the International Trade Center, our business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla, very capable, engaged in a candid discussion with Theophilus Lamini, the MSME expert at ITC. They engaged about how this participation is set to expand market opportunities for our businesses in the European Union as well as otherwise. We'll also conclude with a detailed market analysis from economist Sanele Sibiya per usual. I urge you to stay with us for an insightful afternoon. For now, let's kick things off by looking at business news. Right, for our first focus, we're going to look at a financial update which speaks to the global economy, which continues to show resilience, defying fears of stagnation or recession and stagflation, so to speak. Our growth projections remain unchanged from April at 3.2% in 2024 and 3.3% in 2025. The World Economic Outlook update discusses the challenges as well as recommendations for policymakers. Let's take a look. Well, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, Madala Mhlanga, says government needs to be in a position to effectively regulate tenders that are classified as limited, as this is pivotal in encouraging transparency as well as preventing chances of corruption in procurement.
Speaking at the Hilton Garden Inn in Babane during the Eswatini Procurement Symposium by the Eswatini Public Procurement Agency, the Director of Supply Chain at the Ministry of Finance, Ngululeko Dlamini, says digitization will play an essential part in improving procurement processes.
In our pursuit for excellence in procurement, we must also prioritize digital transformation of our procurement processes, which offer the opportunity to enhance efficiency, streamline operations, and promote transparency. By leveraging innovative solutions, we can optimize our decision-making processes and ensure that we are making informed choices that benefit public good. As we embrace these advancements, we must also remain vigilant about the ethical considerations that come with them, ensuring that our procurement practices uphold the highest standards of integrity.
The Chief Executive Officer at the Eswatini Public Procurement Agency, Vusi Mathebula, says Eswatini is not doing well in terms of following procurement procedures. However, the agency is working towards changing that.
Currently working with the procuring entities to try and make sure that we start implementing the market price reference catalog, where we've collected about 17,000 goods or items that are commonly used by government. Now we've said we want to make sure that the procurement of those goods is within the given limits of the prices. But also, we also do what we call a workload and capacity assessment, where we're looking at the workload of the procuring entity or also looking at the capacity. That tells us how much they are spending on an annual basis in terms of public procurement goods, services and works, and non-consultant services. But it also tells us if they have got a procuring unit, if the procuring unit has got qualified personnel in it, which will then also show us if they've got a CEO in the office, if they've got a CEO in the office. In that case, then it means if all those positions are filled up, it tells us that then they have the capacity to spend and buy for themselves. Because then if those positions are in place, it says to us there is a division of labor, if you can call it. There is issues of specialization. So there are issues of different approvals and authorizations, so that we know that the public funds are safe. But also, we are in the process of ensuring that all procuring entities now have procurement policies which are going to spell out how is the process going to be done when they are procuring goods, services or works, and also how the issues of ethics are going to be treated within the organization. Do they accept gifts? To what amount do they accept those gifts? Issues of conflict of interest, how do you declare your conflict of interest, and all those other issues. And lastly, we are working with the Ministry of Finance, I think you will know by now, where we saw the IFMIS, the Integrated Financial Management System, is already now being developed.
The Public Accounts Committee has flagged government procurement processes and has called for action to tackle currently untracked fraud and error losses running to potentially millions of emalangeni a year. The chairperson, Madala Mhlanga, says it is time that government adopts strict measures of procurement.
Kunengi lekubonakele sisathi sebenza tindzaba yebo kona isetawuya endlini ireport ngilasitativa kahle khona kepha nje awukubonakele ukuthi tiyafohla etindzabeni ukhanze ukuthi kunanabale kuswabo limited tender nabo single tender ukhanze ukuthi ayisaphumi phela ibe public ukuthi ayivulelwe wonke umuntu sekuniketwa loyo muntu munye leyo vele it's highly possible ukuthi igcine iba toxic leyo environment leyo. So ngiletinye into lesitibonile sisasebenza ukuthi asekunciphe letindzaba ukuthi kube nalabo limited tender yebo kona kukhona lenye into letingatholakala lula kepha lo lokulula akunikwe nje lonke liswathi lelikhona kokusupplier at a competitive price.
The methodology for assessing procurement systems, an international standard and the universal tool to evaluate any public procurement system anywhere in the world, draft report still puts the country in a not-so-good position. According to the Eswatini Public Procurement Agency, about 65% of government's expenditure goes to public procurement. 93 entities currently procure for government. For Market View, Nelson Langamandla, Vumingosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
That is how we conclude our business news segment. We turn our attention now to a very, very interesting development where 4 local small and medium enterprises will participate in the Paris Design Week, which is scheduled for next week, courtesy of the International Trade Center. Theophilus Lamini, the micro, small and medium enterprise expert at the International Trade Center, says the participation of MSMEs in the Paris Design Week is one way they are opening markets for the businesses in countries under the European Union. He sat down with our business journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla on a frank conversation. Let's take a look at it.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Dlamini. We know that the International Trade Center works a lot with small and medium enterprises. Briefly tell us about some of the initiatives that you are doing to help small and medium enterprises in the country.
The ITC program in the Kingdom of Eswatini has got 3 projects. One is focusing on job creation and the investment climate, ensuring that the investment climate in the kingdom is conducive for private sector to be able to invest, particularly micro, medium, and medium-sized enterprises in the kingdom, because that's what our focus is mainly on. And then the second project under the program is focusing on the implementation of the SADC EU Economic Partnership Agreement. So you remember that previously we used to have the GATT, which was the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. So now we have the world then shifted to Economic Partnership Agreement. So we've got the EU SADC Economic Partnership Agreement that was ratified, and Eswatini is part of those countries that are supposed to benefit from this agreement. But it was been established that the kingdom doesn't benefit fully from this agreement because there's been minimal quantities of imports or exports to the EU market that are coming from the kingdom of Eswatini. So this project then is trying to facilitate the trade between the two countries, ensuring that there are trade outflows from Eswatini to the EU region. And that is mainly to ensure that instead of the trade deficit that we're having, we have a trade surplus and create opportunities for the micro, medium sized enterprises and small enterprises that we have in the kingdom, which will in turn create jobs for the youth. It will generate incomes, and it will also ensure that we eradicate poverty. Well, I think it's also worth mentioning that the programs that we are implementing are in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is also our major focus as a UN agency. And then the third program that we are having in the country is focusing on the development of the livestock value chain in the livestock sector.
I'm taking interest, Mr. Dlamini, on the programs that you are doing to increase exports, especially because Eswatini is one country that is not really exporting in larger quantities to other countries. How is that going?
Okay, for the program that focuses mainly on the export creation and value creation in the export market, leveraging on the Economic Partnership Agreement. So our current focus is mainly on market linkages. I'll just make an example of an activity that we are currently working on, which will be happening in Paris in about 2 weeks, from the 2nd to the 9th of September, where we have a number of Eswatini MSMEs that will be exhibiting their products at the Paris Fashion Design Week. So we've got Inzabayami and Siapambili. These are micro enterprises which are nestled in the valleys of Makungucha and Gandinda. They are women-owned enterprises. These are grass weavers that are using sustainable materials that they use to manufacture these beautifully designed products. So we facilitate, as the ITC, we facilitated a collaboration of the creation of these products with European-based designers that supported these women to come up with designs and products that will be acceptable and sellable in the European market. So now we are taking this opportunity to send these products to the market so that we can test the market appetite for these products. And then ideally, what we want to do then, or want to achieve, is to have sustainable market linkages that even after the implementation of the program by ITC, these businesses are able to thrive and sustain those relationships and trade outside of the program itself, because our key thing is sustainability.
I see that you are even supporting small and medium enterprises at grassroots level, but I just want to find out, how does one get support from the International Trade Center?
Okay. I'll take you just back to the definition of MSMEs, which is micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. So the nature of the micro enterprises, mostly those are operating informally. So these are unregistered businesses. We also operate with such businesses. Take, for instance, the case of Inzabayami and Siapambili. When ITC stepped in to come and support those two enterprises, they were micro, they were unregistered. But as we speak today, they are registered, they are small enterprises, and they are recognized, they are cooperatives, they are registered as cooperatives. So we do work with all MSMEs from all spheres of life, both stemming from rural backgrounds and those within the urban areas. So we've got custom-made products that appeal to all the MSMEs, and we do not discriminate in terms of size, in terms of location, or whatever the case may be. However, it is also worth to emphasize and put it out there to say that we do have those project MSMEs that were highlighted at the beginning of the project through a collaborative stakeholder engagement and pinpointing of those MSMEs that were to be prioritized in this case. So those were specifically export ready MSMEs. As you may know, that we have MSMEs that are currently exporting to South Africa, the EU, and other international markets. So the idea then was to ensure that they're able to continue exporting, grow their businesses, create employment opportunities, and better the business environment for other MSME players to enter the space. We have also supported a number of these MSMEs to go into different trade shows around the world over the years. We've sent some to Greece, where they participated in a fair there, coffee tasting event. We also sent others to the Saudi Arabia, to the Saudi Food Show, which is also one of the very popular shows globally. And they participated there and competed and also brought some lessons home, which is the spirit that we live by to see our MSMEs thriving so that we can achieve the sustainable development goals as well as the goals that the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has set.
How do you identify the small and medium enterprises that you are currently working with?
So at present, as I had already alluded, that some of these MSMEs were pre-selected at the beginning, at the inception of the project. So now what we are doing, we haven't closed the doors to those that were not pre-selected. Take for instance, as we are here today, we also have multiple other MSMEs that are being capacitated through our training sessions. So we've got a trade portal, which is at the ITC website, which MSMEs can visit. We also have, from time to time, some capacity building sessions, just like the training session that we are having today about communicating about my business for market success. So it's got a number of MSMEs stemming from all walks of life, different industries, agribusiness, textiles, tourism. We have a number of these sessions from time to time, and when we roll out these training sessions, we always put it out there on the media platforms, social media. We can encourage MSME directors to follow the pages of the European Union in Eswatini, ITC in Eswatini, because that is where we normally communicate our activities, our upcoming activities. We also work directly with the Office of, under the She Trades Mission of the Deputy Prime Minister. Also, we do send out notifications on those pages when we are having this kind of trainings.
Small and medium enterprises usually struggle, from what we have gathered, is that they struggle with governance, they struggle with paying tax. How do you incorporate that in your trainings so that these small and medium enterprises can be able to apply and compete for the big tenders, as some of these things that I'm mentioning are very crucial if a small and medium enterprise is to be incorporated in a big company that is doing maybe a tender for different projects in the country?
Okay, it's interesting that you bring up the subject of governance because we've just concluded a workshop which was focusing on issues of environmental, social, and governance issues as the key theme. So we had multiple MSMEs that participated there. We do acknowledge the role that governance plays towards sustainability, and we do put very much emphasis in terms of supporting MSMEs in the area of governance. So those trainings, from time to time, we do facilitate those trainings, and we put out calls for MSMEs to apply in terms of capacitating them and strengthening their capacities in this sphere of governance.
What are the priority SMEs that you are working with?
Okay, the priority MSMEs that are prioritized in the project so far are MSMEs that are within the agribusiness value chain and MSMEs that are within the craft sectors. So these two sectors were the ones that was spearheaded by partners and highlighted to say that they are of critical importance and present low-hanging fruit in terms of accessing the export markets. I'll make an example of agriculture, as that's where my background stems from. Agriculture is an ease of entry and ease of exit. So it's the easiest business to take it up today. If you walk down the streets and ask anyone, they'll tell you they're a farmer. And I mean, understandably so, because there's ease of entry, there's ease of exit. So it's a low-hanging fruit for the Kingdom of Eswatini, which is a low-medium country economy, and it presents opportunities even for youth employment and creating of the opportunities for the youth to thrive. And then also the craft sector, the projects focus on the craft sector mainly because it creates opportunities for trade within the international markets. We are known for our culture as a Maswati, we are known for our crafts. So that was also another low-hanging fruit. So that's where the current projects are focusing. However, for the training and the capacity strengthening session, we open them up for all businesses, not just agribusiness and the craft sector.
Small and medium enterprises have often said they struggle with finding markets for their products. Does the International Trade Center facilitate these markets for the small and medium enterprises?
I'm proud to already say that ITC has already facilitated markets and market linkages for some of the MSMEs that we are working with. Our MSMEs participated and generated massive incomes, with some highlighting that they made in a weekend more than they used to make in a year when they participated in this year's Bushfire Festival. So we had about 14 MSMEs that we sent to the Bushfire Festival. They had stalls, we procured stalls for them, and they were able to trade and also made market linkages and connections for future trade and business. We are also sending some of the MSMEs, 7 of them. They are going to Carmos Makers, which is a market that will be happening in Stein City, Johannesburg. They'll also be trading their products there, and we do foresee this as an opportunity because it's the first time that Eswatini MSMEs are participating in this market. We do foresee it as a massive opportunity for growth in future so that they are able to trade with South Africa. And we are also going to be facilitating the participation of over 10 of our MSMEs to participate in the local Eswatini International Trade Fair throughout the duration of the trade fair. We can just encourage Maswati to continue supporting our MSMEs and also visit the stall of the MSMEs that will be pitched at the Eswatini International Trade Fair.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini, for joining us on the show. We are hoping that the trainings that you are doing will help the small and medium enterprises adapt faster to the ever-changing markets.
Thank you.
Well, there it is. How exciting is that development, and how fascinating and insightful was that conversation. But anyway, let's turn the leaf now and welcome back the market analysis as we wrap up today's show. Take a closer look at the latest market movements and their implications. Sanele Sibia is already here to help us decode these really, really interesting numbers. Starting with the U.S. market, Sanele, welcome back. Welcome to you as well. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down slightly, while the Nasdaq Composite shows modest gains. What's driving these mixed performances, and how should investors navigate these fluctuations?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So what we are seeing there, Mr. Ngumalo, is, markets are waiting to see the economic data that's coming in this week. And already we are expecting, when markets open in the US, I think in a couple of hours from now, to see producer price index data being presented, and also to see consumer expenditure data being presented tomorrow. So what markets are pricing in right now is the fact that these data points will show that inflation is easing. And once inflation eases, we then are going to have a clearer monetary policy stance coming through from the Federal Reserve Bank. That's why we are seeing those mixed numbers there, with the Dow Jones down a bit, and then the S&P 100 and the Nasdaq Composite relatively flat. But what is also cushioning markets, Mr. Ngumalo, is the fact that, companies are really posting good earnings. So right now, investors are faced with an issue of whether to put the money to good use or rather to hold on until until we get a clearer picture tomorrow. So that's the picture that we are seeing happening there, Mr. Ngumalo. Thank you.
Okay. Let's look at European markets. Major European indices like the FTSE 100 and the CAC 40 have all seen declines. What factors are contributing to these downturns? And maybe before you answer that, what does this mean for market sentiment too?
So what we are seeing, news coming out of Germany, Ngumalo's data that, investor confidence in Frankfurt is at all-time lows. And then you come to France, there's still those issues of the politics that are ongoing there. And then when you go to London, what you find is the fact that, jobs data just came out. It's relatively better, such that we are seeing the FTSE 100 holding ground to the figures that we saw yesterday. So what we are seeing now is markets are basically on that wait-and-see mode of what is going to come out mostly of the US, compounding that with the data that's coming out of the UK. So we do expect the UK to continue to rally if the numbers coming out of the US really point to a picture where the Federal Reserve Bank will begin to cut interest rates in September. And then again, we do expect those numbers to start pulling up Germany. And then once France comes out of its political doldrums, we do expect them to start trading much better as well.
Asian markets, Nikkei's significant rise is noteworthy. What is behind this surge, and what could it influence trends in other Asian markets? Everything is on the green there.
Yeah. So what we are seeing there, Ngumalo, is the fact that the yen has somehow stabilized, and that somehow now pulling the money back into the Asian markets because they are relatively cheaper stocks there in terms of, when you exchange from the high denominated currency to the yen. So that stabilization has somehow pulled markets up, particularly Japanese markets. And then we are seeing that trickle into mainland China. Again, we are seeing that movement in terms of, that diversification of portfolios with Chinese bonds also really just being very much a market favorite in Asia. So that somehow bodes well for, the potential for the Chinese government to utilize that money in terms of stabilizing the economy.
Yeah. South African markets, JSE All Share Index has dropped. What are the key issues at play here, and how can investors respond?
So what we are looking at in South Africa again is the fact that we are waiting for the data to come out of the US. It's the same story of a wait and see type of attitude to see what the data that comes out of the US would look like and what it would mean for the South African economy. We know we are dealing with high cost of living pressures, with consumers really just cutting down on their consumption expenses, more especially on groceries. So that tends to affect the retail sector. So that component of the market is a very huge part of the JSE Stock Exchange, and we are waiting to see if the numbers are going to be showing signs of any relief to come soon in terms of the cost of living pressures.
Commodities, both gold and Brent crude, have experienced slight declines. Waiting for these numbers to really show on screen here, but what are the broader implications for commodity investors?
Like we said yesterday, Mr. Ngumalo, this story is quite good for commodities, because in as much as you might look at the price of gold, it might seem to be going down, but it's still holding steady, way above the 2.4 mark. So we are seeing that markets still want to ensure that they are being somehow protected from what is happening. We're talking about it reaching the 2.5 mark today, which was a milestone we were not seeing in the start of the year, but now we have reached it. Though it shows signs of ticking because we're waiting for this data, but this uncertainty in terms of the monetary policy path works well for gold as a hedging currency, as a hedging commodity. And then in terms of gold, what we're seeing is oil is trying to balance up weaker demand as being forecasted by OPEC against the risk of an overall Middle East war. So those issues are all coming into play ideally. So that's why we're seeing that volatility, but oil still inches up.
Yeah. Let's look at currencies. Movements in the USD SZL and Euro SZL showing declines, and as well as the SZL JPY rising today. How are these currency shifts impacting trade as well as investment?
So what we are seeing overall is, our local currency is actually getting a bit of strength against the dollar and the euro, and also against the Japanese yen. So what we are seeing there is we're becoming relatively strong against those currencies. So that in a way makes our our exports relatively cheaper in international markets, but it does actually in a way impact our exports. But we're seeing this coming at the background of the news that we are waiting to see from the US, that investor sentiment that still boards in South Africa and in the local economy. That one is actually driving us the markets to the right path, Mr. Numa.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to our viewers as well for staying with us on the program. And that's it, the very end of our program today. I've been watching Market View, the Tuesday edition. Stay with us for other programs on Eswatini TV. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.